Hello, everybody. We are so grateful. We are thrilled to have you today in this session. And as you come in, we want to welcome you for this session. Look forward to having an engaging session. Enjoy every bit of it. It is our time to enjoy. Let's learn. Let's engage. Let's ask question and drive this wheel of catalyze to catalyze every change. And work through the SDGs. So welcome. And as we start, I would like to share a introduction video from Catalyst. And then we will be able to learn some more from James and Nick. So here we go.
Welcome to Catalyzing Change Week. This year's Catalyzing Change Week is about solutions from the front lines by social innovators.
In 2022, Catalyst 2030 concentrated its efforts on bringing proximate leaders and frontline solutions to the forefront. Collaborations led by members from the Global South produced groundbreaking reports on climate and transforming education, with an emphasis on offering local solutions. We continued our mission to create an enabling environment for social entrepreneurs to flourish by initiating a letter to donors, signed by more than 1,200 social entrepreneurs and innovators. The Catalyst 2030 Awards ceremony was spectacular, and the awards themselves welcome
by the private sector, governments, via multilaterals and donors. Catalyst 2030 as a movement is
disruptive. One of the best things I think that's come out of Catalyst 2030 so far is incredible collaboration across the ecosystem that just didn't exist before Catalyst came into being.
The thing I love most about Catalyst is that it's an open movement for social entrepreneurs around the world.
I would encourage anyone who's looking to be more connected with their local communities around social development goals to come along to Catalyzing Change Week.
Welcome to Catalyzing Change Week.
So everybody, feel free to share where you're joining us from, and let's take it over. James, over to you.
Amazing. Excellent. Well, hello, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you're joining us from today. Absolutely delighted to be speaking to you today about Partnering for Change, Essential Skills meets Youth Entrepreneurship Education. So my name is James Prideaux. I'm the Global Networks Manager at the Skills Builder Partnership. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Nick from Teach a Man to Fish, their Chief Executive and Founder. And yeah, we're really excited to be able to join forces today to share the work of Skills Builder Partnership, and then also the work of Teach a Man to Fish and how they utilize our universal framework in the fantastic work that they do. So very briefly, I'm going to talk to you about what Skills Builder Partnership is, what our universal framework is, and how we use that with different members across our partnership to help them build highly transferable essential skills. So Skills Builder Partnership, we are a not-for-profit social enterprise. We were set up back in 2009 by our CEO, Tom Ravenscroft, and we bring together educators, employers, and impact-led organizations around a common language, a common set of outcomes, and a mission that one day everyone will build the essential skills to succeed. So we focus on a very particular set of skills, what we define the essential skills, which are highly transferable and are required by everybody in their education and in almost any job as well. So we have communication skills of listening and speaking. We have the skills of problem solving and creativity, self-management skills of staying positive and aiming high. And we have the interpersonal collaboration skills of leadership and teamwork. And together, the Skills Builder Partnership is around 850 partners across 19 different countries, all working together using our universal framework to ensure that we are building these skills as effectively and as efficiently as possible, whether that's working with teachers in education settings, or whether it's working with skills leaders across many different types of impact-led organizations like sports teams and art clubs, or careers, curriculum support organizations, or whether it's working directly with employers and getting them to think about their outreach and the way that they support the development of these skills through professional development, or how they recruit around these skills. And also Skills Builder, in terms of our global work, we work on a policy level as well. So working with education ministries and policymakers to think about how our approach and how our framework can help to build these skills as part of a competency-based curriculum. And the Skills Builder Partnership in the last year has managed to support 2.3 million individuals to build their essential skills through quality assured, high quality opportunities as well. Now, the reason why we all come together to be able to do this is because we know that essential skills have a real impact on an individual's education, but also in their wider lives as well. And some of the research that we've done at Skills Builder has highlighted that building these essential skills and achieving high levels of these essential skills allows and supports the development of other areas as well, things like academic attainment or career satisfaction, maths and reading progress. And the reason why we work with so many different types of partners is to ensure that we are building up this journey throughout an individual's life to build these skills in as many high quality scenarios as possible. But it's not just us who are talking about the importance of these skills and why they are so relevant for learners in the 21st century. We've seen from major influencers and stakeholders in the skills space also talking about how these opportunities are rare for individuals to build these essential skills as well. We've seen that the OECD have talked about the lack of opportunities to build proficiency in problem solving. And we've seen Courtney Simmons talk about the lack of knowledge and communication between students and employers, which causes further skills gaps to be driven. We've also seen from our own research that adults really value the importance of these essential skills, but very few of them have opportunities to build these in really structured learning opportunities. So together, as the Skills Builder Partnership, we are looking to ensure that there are these high quality opportunities, that there is a consistent language around what these skills are and how individuals can build them, and to also ensure that there is that tangibility of what these skills are and that transparency about what we mean across these skills as well. And the main tool that we have at the Skills Builder Partnership to support with that is our universal framework, because we believe that every individual can build their essential skills as long as the steps to mastery are laid out clearly and can be taught step by step. So that's effectively what our universal framework does, is takes each of these 8 essential skills and thinks about, well, actually, what are the stages of development from the very kind of early foundation of these skills through to a level of mastery, and what individual steps has helped us to build those stages bit by bit as well. And this single framework is then designed to be used by learners across all of our different settings. So it's the same language that is being used by learners in that education setting as it is by employees in an employer setting, or by all of those beneficiaries across all of our different impact organizations, partners as well. So what I just wanted to show you very briefly was how the framework is structured and how it's been put together to ensure that it is very accessible and that it also provides that transparency and that tangibility as well. So let's take the example of teamwork. When we're talking about teamwork, we're talking about being able to work cooperatively with others towards achieving a shared goal. And again, this is one of the key skills that employers are asking for from individuals leaving education. It's something that we hear from our teachers being a key focus of education as well. So what we want to ensure is that there's a clear understanding about what teamwork is and how that skill can develop and build from those very foundations through to a level of mastery. So like with all of the skills in the universal framework, we've broken it down initially into 4 stages of development. Starting off initially with being able to work well with others, then being able to contribute to a group, before you then start thinking about how you improve a team, and then finally thinking at that mastery level, how you can influence a team as well. So already we're starting to think very carefully about actually developing that skill of teamwork for learners of different ages or at different stages of development, what those different stages might look like. What we've then done, in addition to this, is to break those stages down into smaller steps, 16 steps in total, from step 0, which is that kind of initial foundation of the skill, through to step 15, which is a total mastery. And you can then see that in terms of that skill of teamwork. So actually being able to work well with others is made up of 6 different steps, starting off, first of all, by being able to work with others in a positive way, and then be able to work well with others by behaving appropriately, and then being on time and reliable, taking responsibility for tasks, supporting others if you can do so, and then finally at that last step of this stage, be able to work well with others by understanding and respecting diversity of others' cultures, beliefs, and backgrounds. So each of those steps increase in complexity as you go through and build on the previous one as well. And being able to apply each of those individual steps allows you to be able to work well with others across different contexts and settings. Same approach then with how we contribute to a group. We've broken that down into 3 different steps. So actually, initially, it's about being able to contribute to group decision-making, then be able to recognize the value of others' ideas, and finally, be able to encourage others to contribute as well. Again, taking that same idea of breaking that stage down into individual steps that build up progressively as we go through. And that is then the same approach that we've had across all 8 skills. So there's always those 4 stages of development broken down into those 16 steps, all under that umbrella of a really clear definition of what we mean by that skill. And the whole universal framework is available to access for free on our website. If you go to skillsbuilder.org/framework, you can access the full framework there alongside some additional guidance there about how you can build each of those steps in different settings, whether you're an educator, whether you are working in that employment setting or as an organization, or actually if you're just an individual looking to build those skills independently as well. So as I said, what that allows us to do then is to think about, well, actually, how do we ensure that there is a consistent language and a consistent understanding for how we build these skills throughout an individual's life, from childhood, through their education, throughout their careers, and even beyond. And that's then the work of the Skills Builder team, myself included, is to then support our different partners in being able to engage with that framework for their particular setting. So we run programs for educators to help them think about how they can use this in the classroom or across the entire school institution. We work with employers to think about how they can use that framework to improve their outreach or to think more about their recruitment or staff development. And we also work with hundreds of impact organizations like Teach Amanda Fish to think about how that framework can either support their direct delivery or their programs or support them with things like impact measurement as well. And what we do is support these different types of stakeholders to think about what best practice looks like for them in their setting. So we have a variety of different programs for these different types of partners, each with different awards that these organizations or institutions can work towards. So it might be our schools award in the education setting, it might be an excellence mark for our employers, or it might even be an impact level for our organizations. But what this allows us to do as a partnership is to understand, well, actually, what does best practice look like for each of these different types of stakeholders, and how can we share that not only within the partnership, but also more widely as well. And we're delighted that we have organizations like Teach Amanda Fish that not only go and achieve impact levels and are hosted on our impact directory, but also then are able to share the work that they do more widely and, you know, encourage others to think about the way that they develop their essential skills as well. And the last thing I just wanted to mention was how we have different types of platforms and resources to support individuals or facilitators as well. And you can see there underneath just a few examples of the different types of resources that we have, whether they be platforms for teachers and facilitators to help them assess where their learners or where their class are at in terms of their development of essential skills and find the right lessons or resources or activities to help them build their skills further, whether it's resources or platforms to support parents to think about how they build their skills at home with their children on something like Skills Builder Home Zone. We also have then platforms for individuals to help them assess themselves against the framework, but also understanding how they can build and articulate their development of these skills further as well on Skills Builder Benchmark and Skills Builder Launchpad. And the best thing about these platforms is that they are all completely free to sign up for and use as individual users. All are accessible via our main website. When you go to skillsbuilder.org, you'll see a little tools tab at the top, and from there you can access each of our different tools. So I would recommend today, you know, if you have the opportunity to explore our framework, do also have a look at some of those tools or platforms and think about how they can maybe support you in the work that you're doing as well. But everything is brought back together and is tied together by that universal framework so that it does have that consistent language, has that consistent understanding of what progression looks like in these skills, and makes sure that they are as accessible and as tangible and as measurable as possible for all individuals as well. And at that point, I'm going to pause there and hand over to Nick. Thank you, Nick.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for giving such an amazing overview of the tool. I mean, I guess this is what you do all the time. We're hugely, you know, I can't think, we've been big fans of the Skills Builder for at least 7 or 8 years now. I think when I first came across it, I knew it was something that was special and something missing in our space. I find, you know, just all too often we talk about skills, everybody has in mind something different about what they mean by those skills, and just no way of comparing any of this work. So I thought I would start off by giving people a bit of an overview of what Teach Amanda Fish does, to give some context for then looking at how we use Skills Builder. So yeah, so Teach Amanda Fish is trying to tackle this global problem, which is not going away by itself. You know, young people are being failed, whether that's the 264 million young people not going to school, the young people who leave school but remain unemployed, and the huge number of people who go to school, leave school, end up with a job, but are still living in poverty. You know, this is not an acceptable situation. It's something that we need to change collectively. This is part of the work of Catalyst 2030 and is something Teach Amanda Fish dedicated ourselves to. From our perspective, you know, how do we change this situation? We can wait for it to come top down, or we can demand it from the bottom up. We think young people have a lot of power inside them. They have great potential waiting to be unleashed. It's our job to help them to understand that, to unleash their potential, their power, their sense of agency, so that they can fix problems in their own lives and in the world around them. So as part of our model for creating change, we think it's important that you're able to answer three critical questions. You know, the first, if you want to change anything, you have to see the possibility. If you can't see any possibility for change, it will never happen. Secondly, you have to be able to answer the question of whether, you know, can I do it? And that's about actually having the skills to create change. And this for us is particularly where the Skills Builder enters in. But it also crosses over with the final question, which is it worth it? Actually do I want to create change in my own life, in the world around me? That's a trickier one, but it overlaps also with the skills question, because unless you have some of those skills in place, you're certainly not going to believe it's worth trying to make the effort to do something about these intractable situations. So our innovation, or where we think there's a great opportunity to do more for young people, is in creating challenges to power learning. So we've created as our engine running a business. Running a business is something that we take for granted, but actually it throws up an awful lot of challenges every day. Young people who run a business have to answer the questions, what should they be selling? How can they make it? What should they charge for whatever it is they make? Who could they sell it to? Who should do what within the business? And when it's not working, how are they going to reinvent it? It's a constant generator of problems. I guess for any of those of you out there who run your own organizations or departments, frankly, just working in the NGO space is often a bit like this as well. There's a constant series of problems. Problem solving is a vital skill. It provides a chance for them to practice it if we can get them involved in running a business. So our main program is the School Enterprise Challenge. And we use this as an opportunity to not just build learner skills, but to build teacher skills, to build the student skills, and interestingly also to generate some income for schools, education, or for problems that young people want to solve in their communities. Working on these three fronts simultaneously provides a sustainable model where teachers can keep things going. The income generated provides incentives for the institution, the schools, to want to keep the program running, and students obviously have a vested interest in building their own skills. We've now reached the point where we have many thousands of schools all across the world taking part in this program, which provides fascinating insights into sort of just how universal some of this language about universal skills is. The specific country to context, what poverty looks like, what the problems in the job market can be different everywhere. But in terms of what employers are looking for, in terms of what you need to succeed as an entrepreneur, the skills actually are very common across countries. Oh, that's interesting. Where's that gone? Where's my slideshow gone? Hang on. Okay, right. So the way that the program works is it's in the first instance, young people work together, facilitated by a teacher, to come up with a business idea. Once they've come up with that idea, they do a bunch of research, they develop a business plan, so they've got a clear basis for setting up that business. In the third stage, they actually launch and run a business. So as opposed to many interesting programs we see, which are very theoretical, ours is a very practical one. And it's this practical component that provides extra opportunities to really build some of the skills that James has outlined earlier. And as mentioned, we generate income, which is great for the school, the program sustainability and social goals they're trying to achieve. These 21st century skills, problem solving, communication, teamwork, aspiration, all are vital for young people, whether they stay in education, whether they go on to be employees, or whether they set up a business of their own. And we've also structured it with a series of award levels up to gold to provide an extra reason for institutions to participate over multiple years. And one of the things that we see is it really takes this kind of dedication over multiple years for both institutions and for young people to make the progress that we'd like to see. So I'm going to throw a bunch of photos at you just to give you a flavor of what it's like, because that all sounds very theoretical. On the left, you can see some market research going on. We get young people to go out and talk to business owners to understand what are the challenges they face, what's it like for them. and in doing so build up their own vision of what it's like to run a business and enter the challenge slightly more prepared. Sales is a regular part of all these school businesses, and actually getting to touch the money somehow is super motivational for young people, particularly when they're from poorer backgrounds where money is scarce. Knowing that you can actually generate some income yourself is a reason to participate in an educational process. So in practical terms, these businesses can look like anything from, this is mushroom farming in India, pizza making in Honduras, we've got sweets in Cambodia. Yeah, a wide variety. We've seen just about every kind of business possible. Many of these businesses start with nothing whatsoever because that's the position young people find themselves in, and makes it into a realistic challenge. There are very rarely any magic money fairies turning up with startup capital. So if you can start something with nothing, you can build your own startup capital and progress from there. So we've been using Skills Builder, as I mentioned, for quite a long time, and we've been using it in slightly different ways across our programs. You can see here it's in many contexts it's just not possible to use technology much as we would love it to collect some of the results. So we print out those lists of 15 different levels of skills, and young people work their way through it. To get the best outcomes, we find for the in-person programs, it's invaluable to train both the teachers and the students directly, and to make sure that there is printed out material which they can access and make use of when we're not there. Teachers and students, as I'll go to sort of explain, sort of often interpret it and take to it in slightly different ways. But for students actually understanding more about the purpose of the program they're taking part in, that it's not just about learning skills, intangible skills, or making a profit, but actually really thinking about what those skills consist of makes a big difference. As a silent outreach arm of Skills Builder, we also do training of our own organizational partners. These will tend to be sort of often smaller NGOs working on the ground in some of the countries that we work in. Sometimes they're quite large partner organizations who'll take on rolling out the School Enterprise Challenge across a whole of a country. But where they have a genuine interest and commitment to understanding the impact of their work, Skills Builder is one of the ways that they can understand and talk about their work and its results in a very different way to just measuring the number of young people involved or getting their subjective feedback on the benefits. So we use it heavily in our sort of monitoring and evaluation and learning systems. And we do that both as self-assessment from the students. We do that as pre and post assessment conducted by the teachers, and then we compare the results. The main program that we run, which I mentioned, School Enterprise Challenge, is a group program. So essentially it could be anything from 5 to sometimes even 100 young people taking part in businesses at the same time. And this provides the opportunity to focus more on certain of those skills. So particularly when it comes to leadership and teamwork, these are things that are very hard to do if you're not in the context of a group. There's a little photo here of some young people in Mongolia presenting their business idea back to the rest of the group. And again, it's fantastic for having opportunities to practice those kinds of speaking skills, whether it's pitching business ideas, reporting back on the market research that goes on to identify whether a business might be feasible. There's constant communication required, and problem solving, as I alluded to, is one of the joys and the pitfalls of business on an ongoing basis. But we also run a couple of digital programs. This one, the Enterprise Adventure, is an individual program. And it's been interesting for us to see what the differences have been as we try to apply Skills Builder to this context. Actually, for the individual programs where there is less opportunity for leadership and teamwork, it's a really nice way to bring out some of the possibilities for young people to build their creativity, to build their capacity to aim high, to set expectations for themselves. And we think as our work continues to evolve, that actually the more that we're able to get young people to operate across both these contexts of individual programs, of group programs, the more we're going to be able to have a deeper impact on their skill levels. The nice possibilities of doing it online and integrating it into a website is that we can pretty much have real-time results. We can see very quickly and very easily the difference it makes to individual young people, and correlate that with how far they've gone in the program, how much time they've spent in the program. This for us is something we've started more recently, but it's a really interesting area, I think, of learning that we'd like to push further. So in broader terms, what we've learned from taking part in using the Skills Builder tools is that, there are these very distinct possibilities that come from group programs versus individual programs. In our individual program, Enterprise Adventure, we've seen something like a two-step improvement on average in young people's results across the skills being measured over a period of 3 months. Whereas with the group activities, we see the similar kind of gain, but over a longer period. So something I guess we're interested in is, is that because it actually takes more time to acquire leadership or teamwork skills versus working personally on your own creativity, or is there just something inherent in working with kind of groups that means that it's a more diffuse form of learning and therefore takes longer? In terms of engagement, this is one of the areas where I think it really makes a difference. The young people have always enjoyed our programs, but there is, for people who are interested in intrinsic motivation, there's this kind of concept of, if you give people autonomy and you give them purpose and you give them mastery, that builds a really strong motivation to actually achieve. We've always had a lot of purpose in our programs and always had a lot of autonomy, but Skills Builder brings an opportunity to make it very clear to young people what mastery looks like, which pushes them to push themselves further to question, are they achieving what they want to achieve? And if not, how can they do it? On the teaching side of things, we've seen that teachers are able to offer much more effective lessons using the Skills Builder, because rather than trying to have some of these skills, whether it's teamwork, creativity, as something that comes out accidentally through the process, which it always has done, it means they can refer back to it. And this ability to be specific about when you're learning what skill is very powerful. It's also helped us to understand where in our own process some of these skills can best be learned. So creativity, for instance, features very strongly in the early stages of our program, where young people are brainstorming business ideas, are designing products, are thinking about what it is that they want to do. Whereas some of the other aspects, the teamwork and leadership, come in more strongly in the implementation stage when they're actually running the business to make sure that things run effectively. On the communication side of things, similarly, having a common language which all stakeholders can use has been very helpful. It means that when teachers talk to the students and when students talk to each other, when the school reports to the head or reports back to the community, things are being talked about in the same way. That means over time, people can build up a shared understanding of what actually is the real intent. And finally, for our side, I think it's been extremely helpful have the skills builder results as part of our evidence base for the effectiveness of our programs, to be able to show that something that can seem quite nebulous, like improvements in skills, something that very often for other organizations I see as self-reported in a fairly sort of weak sense. 90% of teachers say there was some improvement. What does some improvement mean? We're able to be specific about it, both in terms of the skills, in terms of the degree of improvement, and that means we can make a better case for our programs, both for why they should be funded, which is always appreciated, and also why schools or governments, etc., should adopt these programs. And just to end with a couple of the challenges we faced, some of which we still wrestle with, some of which we've got better at. I think the how really matters. Actually, having people collecting your data that have a stake in the data quality makes a difference. For a while, we used data collectors, and we saw, actually the results were not so clear. Whether learning was taking place or not. But when either teachers or our own staff get involved, it makes a big difference in actually having results you can rely on. A challenge we face is that actually, it would be lovely to measure all of the 8 skills covered by Skills Builder, but in practice, the time taken to explain them, the time taken to administer some of the assessments means we've had to be selective, which is why we focused on the ones that I've mentioned. But nonetheless, between different possibilities of measuring different things at different times, it's still been hugely insightful for us, even if we couldn't incorporate all 8. Who and when matters. Learners are learning all the time, and this has been quite a challenge for us. Sometimes we really want to trust young people and to give predominance to their views on their learning of skills, but actually we find over and again, even if we go through the process really well of explaining to young people what's involved in each of these skills, it's only when they start practicing and learning and experiencing those skills that they really understand their own ability. So actually the assessments of young people at the start of a program are not extremely reliable, but the ones at the end of a program tend to be, for us anyway, tend to be very useful. So we give a little bit more weight towards what the teachers who've used the tools over an extended period see in terms of the level of young people, because those teachers provide a more objective basis. But it's still really valuable getting the young people to do it because of the extra engagement. They've done a marvelous job with the Skills Builder to try and make it absolutely as universal as possible. Occasionally, we find areas where it's things are included, such as the use of decision trees when it comes to problem solving, which we haven't as yet included into our programs. But even something like that is the start of a positive conversation, because frankly, maybe we should be including it in our programs, so it pushes us ahead. The last challenge, I guess, is one around language. Again, trying to have a language that works for everybody, no matter their level of English, no matter their level of education, it is extremely challenging. But the way that we find that this is, something we can overcome is by really empowering teachers to understand Skills Builder as effectively as possible, and they can do a pretty good job of understanding their students and translating it to their level. So I have no idea if I ran over there, but hopefully some of that was interesting. We are always looking for conversations about how we can work better, and partners, and how we can use tools like Skills Builder to make a real difference for young people. So please do reach out to us after this if you think any of our work resonates with you. So we have got a good amount of time, I think, for question and answers, and we're hoping some of the people in the crowd will have some questions for us. So please don't be shy. You can throw it in the chat, but it's we've got manageable numbers here, so it's really nice to even hear from you directly. So just unmute and throw us your questions.
Thank you, Nick and James, for a wonderful presentation. Irene from Uganda. I know that Jamantu Fish, you've done great work in Uganda. So one of the things that I wanted to find out is what do you see in terms of enterprises? Are students more motivated to starting business enterprises, or there's an effort also to see that the social enterprises also can be started? So what do you see in that space?
I mean, we see a huge thirst for young people setting up enterprises of all sorts. I mean, it's nice that you mentioned social enterprise. You know, I didn't want to talk endlessly about what we do, but you know, we're very committed to the idea that actually it's not just about running a business and making a fortune or making some money for yourself. Actually, if you can do something that's positive for the community, positive for the environment, that's the best kind of business to run. So we have a module that covers that, and we see that young people are excited about that. Actually, a lot of young people will really factor that into their thinking as they're starting a business, and particularly when there are so many opportunities to, for instance, start businesses in waste, using waste products and creating something of value out of it. So I think there is a huge demand for social enterprise. There's a huge demand for enterprise. It's something that isn't often presented to young people. So when they see it, and if they're from a context where that money can make a real difference to them, they apply themselves, you know, extremely with a lot of energy to it. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay. How do you, so there's one in the chat. How do you think Skills Builder could be better integrated within the high school curriculum in school districts in the US, particularly in low income and disenfranchised communities, and in schools overall as part of high school education? So that's one for you, James.
Yeah, I think that's yes, that's a really great question, and that is something that I primarily focus on as the Global Networks Manager at Skills Builders. So we have a program called the Global Accelerator, which is a program for schools and colleges based outside of the UK to receive training from the Skills Builder team and build a strategy for how they want to develop these essential skills within their institution. And that is led primarily through engagement with the Universal Framework and 6 principles of best practice. So, principles including, how do we keep language simple and tangible for teachers and the learners? How do we build provision for learners at different ages within the institution? Because the framework can be and is used by learners as young as 3 all the way through to 18 in mainstream education. We also think about, how does assessment happen across the school? So what does formative assessment look like? What are the procedures or the processes or systems that the school needs to have in place so that teachers can measure what progress is being made and celebrate with learners what progress is happening, but also understand where those gaps in provision are starting to appear, or where gaps in skills are starting to appear. And then the 4th principle then is around using those insights to plan really explicit, direct instruction around these skills. So moving away from having, as Nick mentioned earlier on, a very broad focus on teamwork or a broad focus on listening, and thinking actually what particular part of listening is relevant to my learners at the moment, and using your formative assessment to provide those insights. And then to think about then how you reinforce that explicit learning through elsewhere in the curriculum, in extracurricular activities, and then finally in principle 6, bring it to life. So think about how you highlight the transferability of these skills to students, how you link it to the world of work, how you link it to the local community, project-based learning. And we have lots of really great examples of how different schools worldwide have embedded those principles of best practice within their particular setting. And I can post a link to our case study showcase that highlights hundreds of different case studies there. But the other good thing is that the Global Accelerator is free for schools to join. They have to apply for a fully funded place. We're in the application window at the moment. And in fact, there are opportunities for schools in the US to join that program. So if you are interested, if you want to find out more about that program, I can post a link into the chat for that program page, and you can see the application there. And yeah, you know, it's an opportunity for us to learn together and then innovate further as well.
I think there's another one for you, James, from Irene. Have you taken these skills programs to universities? There's a big problem here in Uganda with unemployable graduates.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, the answer is yes. So we're currently in the process of piloting that at the moment. In fact, earlier today, I was covering for one of my colleagues and doing a session in UCL, one of the universities in London, with a group of media students who are just about to go on placement, telling them more about the framework and how they can start thinking about building those skills whilst on their industry placement. And I think what we have seen from the initial work we've done with the universities pilot is that actually the work with universities is less like our work with other education institutions and is more like our work with employers, because the universities are so vast and they have so many different ways of building these skills and understanding why these skills are important for their students. It's more of an approach like we've seen with our employment partners instead, which is a really interesting kind of insight. And I could spend hours talking about that, but we haven't got time sadly today. But again, it's something that we are very interested in exploring further. The framework, when it was launched back in 2020, was designed so that it could be used by universities. It was considered alongside what higher education institutions were asking for in terms of skills development. So that's been built into this particular version of the framework. So yeah, again, if there's something that you'd be interested in exploring further, I can post my email in the chat, and I'd be more than happy to chat to you about what opportunities there could be to come from that as well. So yeah, thank you, Erin.
Yeah, there's conversations going on within the chat as well. We're asking about whether it's, you know, more on the financial side of things or the social side of things that motivates people. I guess we're constantly trying to make the case that it's, you know, it doesn't have to be a dichotomy. You know, if you can do well by doing good, that's what many young people would love to do. So we're in the business of giving them the inspiration and some of the tools to think about how they can both make money for themselves and be socially responsible. So yeah, in the chat, I think Christoph's included a link to some of the examples from the School Enterprise Challenge website of what those kinds of businesses can look like. I had a cheeky question for James of my own. So we've recently, you know, we've always been working at primary and secondary level, and we haven't at university because universities are actually quite good sometimes at some of this kind of work. But we've been asked and we've pushed down into early years more recently, and I'm sort of interested, you know, whether you think how applicable skills builder can be at earlier ages. I mean, we're sort of looking maybe 5 and 6 rather than you know, even smaller.
Yeah, so I mean, we have worked with lots of schools, both in the UK and internationally now, where skills builder is used at that kind of early years or kindergarten level. What we tend to see in that setting is that the very earliest stages, steps of the framework are being looked at, primarily step 0 and potentially step 1. And what we've done in those settings is we've used our expanded version of the framework, where we break the skills down even further into smaller stepping stones. Okay. So that in the UK context, in your 2 years of early years provision in England, you'll be focusing on those individual stepping stones of step 0 into step 1. And we have a set of resources then that have been specifically designed for use in that setting. So instead of it being structured more like a generic lesson that can be used in that primary or secondary or further education setting, it's looking more at how do you apply it through play, or how do you apply it through different areas of the classroom? So yeah, there's some really great examples of our short lessons which dig into that further. Also some guidance for parents as well at that age that sits on our Home Zone platform for, how do you talk about these skills to learners as young as that? And we've got a variety of short stories and activities that make the skills, again, very accessible and pitched at the right level with the right type of language to engage learners with these skills. Because again, when you start to speak to early years or kindergarten teachers and professionals, again, they're looking at developing the same set of skills. They want their students to be able to collaborate more. They want them to be able to communicate effectively. They want them to be able to problem solve and manage themselves. But the expectations obviously look very, very different compared to older learners. And that's why then there is that real focus on that initial steps of the framework. That step 0 and potentially step 1 is actually kind of building that foundation first and foremost then as well. So yeah, we do have examples of that across partnership as well.
I need to go and check some of that out. I think Howard Blumenthal, it looks like you've got a question. If you want to unmute.
Yeah, I think I'm unmuted. Yeah. So this is for Nick. Very good presentation. I'm really enjoying this. Places. So I've gone to your website, and you certainly have a larger presence in some areas of the world than others. So I was curious how you make progress in that, or if you want to make progress. And the other is, because much of what I'm seeing on the website tends to be lower income, is there an online component in here for the participants, or are you using that primarily for communication? Because so much of opportunity relies upon internet, but reliability of internet or availability may not be so great in the places you're working. How do you think about all that?
No, absolutely. So we have offices in Uganda, in South Africa, and in Honduras, as well as a sort of a main office in the UK. But we work a lot through partners in different countries. So we have significant partners in Paraguay, in Mexico, in India, organizations who share our values and are interested in adopting, some of our materials and using it to achieve their ends. It would be really nice if everyone had access to the internet. The reality is, in so many places, it's still a really significant challenge, and it's no coincidence that those are also the places where there is additional disadvantage, which is why we make this extra effort to try and identify partners who have some capacity to reach out and work with people on the ground. So the bulk of the work in the countries where we have offices is direct face-to-face teacher training, with students involved to a degree as well, or face-to-face training with partners who might not be able to use those online resources. But the fact that we have online resources available is what enables schools wherever they are in the world to take part. And I'm always blown away how there are schools in Albania, there are schools in the Maldives, all over the place where they come across the program. It's very hard to find a program like this in those countries already, and the teachers make of it what they will, and sometimes do an incredible job of just following the instructions and building these skills, building the businesses, inspiring entrepreneurship, and inspiring young people's futures.
I guess my question in part is, so you are in 6 countries or whatever the number is in a significant way. Is your goal to increase your presence and depth within those 6 countries, or do you want 12 countries?
Both. We're going for multiple channels. So to the degree that we can find partners who want to take our work to new countries, we'll are delighted to train up those partners and give them the scope to push it out in their countries as much as possible. In certain countries, so in Honduras, the government there has decided it wants to adopt wholesale this approach across all schools in the country. So in Honduras, we're going for depth, and we're going to try and reach full saturation within the country. for countries where the government's not interested in engaging, it's very hard to achieve that same kind of level. But we're going both for breadth and depth, and things. Thus far it's been working well.
I'd love to talk further. Thank you.
Oh, please, let's do it. Okay. I'm not sure if I missed anything in the chat in the meantime. Montessori. Yeah, I'm not. If I've missed a question there, someone please shout out. Otherwise, I thought we've got a limited amount of time, because I think Caroline wants to show something at the end. But James, of the challenges that I raised, that we've encountered, probably we should have spoken to you earlier. But what are some of the suggestions you have for overcoming those challenges?
Yeah, so I think they are very interesting challenges that you're facing, because you're one of our you're one of our global partners that are doing, work in so many different countries that it's interesting to compare the kind of challenges that you face compared to some of the other organizations that we work with on the ground in other countries as well. There is always that question around language, and that's why we have done some initial work on translations of the Universal Framework into some key languages in the countries that we're currently working in, and we expect ourselves to grow our working in the coming years. And I think the reason why we run programs like the Global Accelerator or our Global Impact programs for organizations is so that we can learn more about actually what this skills build approach does look like on the ground in these different countries as well. And that allows us then to think more about the work that we do at that policy level as well, which is that kind of third strand of the global work is working with those education ministries and policymakers in different countries to think about actually how the framework or how the approach can support either existing competency-based curriculums that are already there or curriculums that are coming in. So, for example, the work that we're doing currently in Kenya and Uganda is working alongside both countries' national examination boards to look at both countries' competency-based curriculums and think about, well, actually, how can the framework do a lot of the groundwork for having a consistent understanding of what we mean by core competencies or essential skills, and then a framework to assess progress against. And we're doing a lot of that work through organizations like the British Council that obviously have teams on the ground in these countries, but working then and providing support directly to those policymakers and those decision makers as well. So yeah, we're very much in a space at the moment where this global work is still part of our innovation stream. It's still something that we are learning lots about, and that's why over the next 3 years we're increasing the work that we're doing in India and in Malaysia, in the US, Australia, and in Lebanon. Those are our 5 kind of focus countries. But we are also looking, and we do have partners in other countries where those educators or those impact organizations already have a real interest in improving their skills provision. And again, those provide us with so many insights and things to consider when, we go away in 2025 and review the framework and think about ways that we can improve it further before we kind of relaunch it again as part of this 5-year cycle. I think global is going to be a big part of that next year to ensure that this is truly a global universal framework, and that it isn't something that is being designed for the UK and is just used within the UK, but is something that supports anybody anywhere to build these skills comprehensively as well. So yes, lots of work going on, and I think lots of work to come up as well.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, looking at the time, maybe it's time to hand back to Caroline to let everyone know a little bit more about the wonderful work Catalyst 2030 does. But thanks, James, so much for this session. I've learned a lot, and yeah, I'm hoping everyone in the crowd has as well.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. It's been great to present with you as well.
Thank you so much, James and Nick. Quite an informative session. So I will be sharing my screen, showing the Catalyst offerings that we are having at the moment. So we will be having the Catalyst nominations for for the drivers of change in your societies, please feel free to compile the form, nominate that person, and then they might be receive the awards for the change makers. We also have Catalyst Markets. These are this is a collaborative project of Catalyst 2030, who connects the makers, people who are making sustainable, handmade, and culturally rich products with shoppers like us. Please connect to that link and find yourself something authentic done by Catalyst members. Also, please remember to sign up for the business commitment badge if you have a business. This is a Catalyst. This is a prestigious recognition of private businesses that partner with mission-locked social enterprises. Lastly, do not forget to share your articles. If you come across a very informative or rich article, documentary, or even videos that shows social entrepreneurs or entrepreneurship or change makers in action, this portal provides all curated materials that is helping people learn more about social entrepreneurship at this age. So we are really, really glad that you've been with us, and we ask you to join Catalyst membership, which I have posted the link. Come join us for an informative session, learn about Catalyst if you're not a member. If you're a member, do not forget to update your profiles, your profile details, so that we can continue engaging differently. We're really glad. So I finish my my presentation, and if Nick or James is done with the presentation, then I will ask us to unmute our devices and say goodbye. So, and let's register for the other sessions. Then let's continue engaging.
Yeah, it's an amazing week Catalyst put together. Thanks everyone so much for coming along. It's really appreciated to see you all here. Let's stay in touch.
Yeah, thank you everybody. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of the day. Bye for now.
Bye.